All right, y'all. So guess what? The robber barons are robber baroning. We have this new report that came out. World's 500 richest people surpassed 10 trillion in wealth this year. 500 people worth 10 trillion. They say tech billionaires led the way with a combined $903 billion gain. So it's not that the tech billionaires, they have 903 billion total. No. They had a gain in 1 year of 903 billion more, nearly $1 trillion. Trump's election win pushed Musk's fortune above 400 billion. So now he's the richest man in the world, and it's by far. So let's dive into some of this, and then we'll explain what's going on here. The world's 500 richest people got vastly richer in 2024, with Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and Jensen Huang leading the group of billionaires to a new milestone, a combined $10 trillion net worth. By the way, all indications are that Elon Musk will be the world's first trillionaire. That he at some point will have over $1 trillion in wealth. One person over $1 trillion in wealth. We just got a report. Homelessness hit a record high in the U.S., 770,000, and that's a massive undercount, and it was a spike of 18%. There's probably over 100,000 homeless veterans in this country. And one person in the near future will have over $1 trillion in wealth. Why should that be allowed? Why should we be okay with that? Isn't that, on its face, just evidence of a failed economic system? On its face, isn't that something where you go, oh, so we fucked this up and need a page one rewrite? To not have that reaction is the dumbest thing I've ever heard and the most cucked thing I've ever heard. Is the argument that a guy like Elon Musk, he's just that much better than you, that much smarter than you, work that much harder than you? Is it even possible to work that much harder than another person where you're worth $1 trillion and somebody else makes $35K a year? By the way, probably busting their ass in some service sector job. The whole fucking thing is broken, bro. The whole thing is broken. Let's continue. An indomitable rally in U.S. technology stocks played a key role in turbocharging the trio's wealth, as well as the fortunes of Larry Ellison, Jeff Bezos, Michael Dell, and Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. The 8 tech titans alone gained more, than $600 billion this year. 43% of the $1.5 trillion increase among the 500 richest people tracked by Bloomberg Billionaires Index. But it was Musk, the so-called first buddy of President-elect Trump, the shadow president. But it was Musk, the so-called first buddy of President-elect Donald Trump, after unprecedented support for his re-election campaign, who dominated the world's wealthiest in 2024. His close relationship with the incoming president helped increase the value of his companies, including Tesla, SpaceX, and XAI, that boosted his fortune to an unprecedented $442.1 billion, which is up $213 billion from the beginning of the year. The $237 billion gap between him and Jeff Bezos on December 17th was the largest ever recorded between the first and second ranked names on Bloomberg's Wealth Index. So now he's number one by a wider margin than anybody ever, is what they're saying. And why is that? It is literally because of his access to power, his access to the president. That's why. Across the board, the world's wealthiest benefited from a stock market that defied expectations in 2024. Hey, isn't that weird? People use the stock market as an indicator of how the country is doing. Meanwhile, I just told you, homelessness hit a record high. 18% spike, 770,000 people homeless. And again, that's a massive undercount. So homelessness goes up, but also wealth of the wealthiest is skyrocketing. It's almost like those things are linked. It's almost like the better the wealthy do, the worse working people and people at the bottom of the economic ladder do. Nobody will tell you that. Everybody will tell you, that's crazy. A rising tide lifts all boats, bro. You tell me. You tell me. The S&P 500 index gained 24% through Monday, powered by the small group of stocks dubbed the Magnificent Seven, including Musk's Tesla, Zuckerberg's Meta platforms, and Huang's Nvidia Corp, which accounted for more than half of the stock benchmark's performance. Trump's election win added to the gains. The S&P 500 hit an all-time high on November 6th in its best post-election day performance in history. That's because all these wealthy assholes know that Trump's going to cut their taxes, and they know that Trump's going to give them corporate welfare, subsidies for the wealthy. They know they're going to get to rob you like they did his first term, and so it's a party going on. The billionaires represented on the index gained a combined $505 billion in the 5 weeks following the election, 34% of the yearly total. They're going to get to rob you blind. That's why they're so excited. The robber barons know there's going to be a robber baron president who will deliver for them. Trump's victory also sparked a historic rally for digital assets, pushing Bitcoin above 100,000 for the first time. That especially boosted crypto billionaires. Binance Holdings, Changpeng Zhao, known as CZ, saw his wealth surge 60% to $55 billion. Coinbase founder Brian Armstrong, his wealth rose more than 50% to $11.1 billion. Okay, guys, we already learned a year or two ago that crypto is a giant scam. Look at Sam Bankman-Fried and everything that went on with that. And now, crypto bought legitimacy by getting involved in political corruption. And then now, Trump's going to let them loot the treasury. In fact, he has this highfalutin scam to basically bail out crypto. So it's exactly what it looks like it is. It's exactly what it looks like it is. Privatize the profits, socialize the losses, this time via crypto. Trump has his own crypto platform as well. And he was selling trading cards, and he was involved in NFTs, and he's selling gold sneakers, and he's selling Bibles, and he's got $100,000 watches, which are just an absolute green light for corruption vis-a-vis foreign billionaires and foreign governments, etc. They know, man, it's open season. It's open season. They get to rob you blind, dog. They get to rob you blind. All right, so look, this is, shit. Tech billionaires got nearly $1 trillion wealthier, and the world's 500 richest people surpassed $10 trillion in wealth, all at the same time. Homelessness is increasing. Food insecurity is increasing. There's that statistic, which some people fight over the legitimacy of it because it was just a survey, but it was as high as 70% of people are living paycheck to paycheck in the U.S. Even if you want to say that's too high. Okay, let's say half of the American public is living paycheck to paycheck. That's cutting it back quite a bit, right? It ain't pretty, dog. It ain't pretty. Never mind medical bills being the number one cause of bankruptcy. Never mind the credit card debt people deal with, the student loan debt people deal with. The system is not looking pretty. It's not looking pretty. But just to put it more in perspective for you guys, this is the way the system looks. Ready for this?
There's a chart I saw recently that I can't get out of my head. A Harvard business professor and economist asked more than 5,000 Americans how they thought wealth was distributed in the United States. This is what they said they thought it was. Dividing the country into 5 rough groups of the top, bottom, and middle 3 20% groups, they asked people how they thought the wealth in this country was divided. Then he asked them what they thought was the ideal distribution. And 92%, that's at least 9 out of 10 of them, said it should be more like this. In other words, more equitable than they think it is. Now that fact is telling, admittedly, the notion that most Americans know that the system is already skewed unfairly. But what's most interesting to me is the reality compared to our perception. The ideal is as far removed from our perception of reality as the actual distribution is from what we think exists in this country. So ignore the ideal for a moment. Here's what we think it is again. And here is the actual distribution. Shockingly skewed. Not only do the bottom 20% and the next 20%, the bottom 40% of Americans barely have any of the wealth. It's hard to even see them on the chart. But the top 1% has more of the country's wealth than 9 out of 10 Americans believe the entire top 20% should have.
And this is getting worse. This is going to get worse. It was under Trump the first time that billionaires paid a lower effective tax rate than regular working people. That was under Trump the first time. They're going to put it on steroids, dog. They're going to put it on steroids. So we're looking at a situation right now where the bottom 80% of Americans hold just 7% of the wealth. There was that RAND study that came out a few years ago, which explained how the top 1% effectively stole $50 trillion from the bottom 90% since 1974. which basically means that every working American should have an extra $1,144 per month, every year for the rest of their life. If we just had the same economic situation that we had in 1974, that's what it would look like. That's how much they're screwing people over. The top 1% holds 30% of the wealth, $43 trillion. The bottom 50% of the country has only 2.6% of the wealth. And how do we get to this point? Because of a war on unions. So the private sector unions went from about 33% all the way down to 6%. You can thank Ronald Reagan for beginning that trend. It's the neoliberal era that screwed us. We're in a new Gilded Age now. And Trump can't wait to make that worse. Corporations and billionaires bought our government. The robber barons bought our government. And this is the result of it. So they get more tax cuts, they get more corporate welfare, they get bailouts, and you get the social safety net cut. So the parts of the government that regular people rely on, the super popular parts of our government, that's what they're coming for. They're going to come for stuff like home heating assistance and food stamps and unemployment and Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. That's what they're coming for. In fact, it was a MAGA judge who just slapped down overtime pay for 8 million Americans. It was a new rule signed by the Biden administration. It would have given 8 million Americans more overtime pay. A MAGA judge took it away. Trump didn't say a goddamn word against it because he doesn't give a fuck. He supports taking away overtime from 8 million workers. And MAGA didn't say anything about it either. Even the voters. They either don't know about it or know about it and don't care. This is what we're looking at. So there you go. That's what it is, man. World's 500 richest people surpassed 10 trillion in wealth this year, and the tech billionaires alone made nearly $1 trillion more as regular people struggle. To look at this situation and not have clear answers is unacceptable. You should not be a politician. If you look at this and you don't have immediate answers and solutions to this, you shouldn't be a politician. We should have Social Security for all. UBI, Social Security for all, universal basic income. Let everybody get a check. We should have universal health care, single payer, Medicare for all. We should absolutely have that. We should get big money out of our political system. No more robber barons buying our government, owning our politicians, etc. We should have a 4-day work week. There's so many things that we need to do. And nobody's even having that conversation now because the robber barons just won and they're about to make everything a lot worse.
Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.